Open your freezer tonight and you could be staring at a ticking time bomb, one that carries the risk of hospitalization, miscarriage, or even death. Since 2018, the FDA has flagged and recalled more than 50 frozen vegetable products, from spinach to bell peppers, many suspected of harboring listeria, a bacteria known to survive the cold and endanger vulnerable groups. The frightening truth is that these vegetables aren't rare luxuries. They're everyday staples in school lunches, family dinners, and quick weeknight meals. What's marketed as healthy, ready to cook may in fact come with hidden risks you never signed up for. And the recalls. Most families never hear about them, leaving half-used bags sitting silently in the freezer, waiting. So before you add another pack of frozen veggies to your cart, ask yourself, could this be nutrition or a dangerous gamble in disguise? Tonight, we reveal the 8 frozen vegetables you should never buy. 1. Frozen peas. Just this past September 2025, the FDA confirmed a Class 1 recall of frozen peas from Endico Potatoes Inc., lot number 10625, sending shockwaves from coast to coast. Class 1 recall isn't paperwork. It's a red siren, warning of a contamination so dangerous it carries hospitalization risk. Those tiny green pearls in your freezer are now suspected of harboring a threat you can't see. Frozen peas have always sold the image of trust. Washed and ready to cook, the packaging says, bold green labels promising health and ease. Parents, seniors, college students, everyone throws them into the cart without hesitation. But beneath that convenience lurks Listeria monocytogenes, a cold-loving invader that survives freezing, hides in tiny pockets, and reawakens when heat isn't enough. A vegetable once praised as safe became a biological landmine. The failure here is striking. Endico didn't catch it themselves. Outside testing did. Once again, the watchdog wasn't the brand, but outsiders. It's the same old story. Gold medal one moment, trip over the first hurdle the next. For shoppers, it's like Russian roulette with every forkful of shepherd's pie. And when people get caught in the crossfire, the toll isn't abstract, it's painfully human. Listeria infection doesn't strike evenly. In healthy adults, it can mean days of relentless fever, muscle aches that feel like the flu you can't shake, nausea that drains your strength. For seniors with weaker immunity, a simple dinner side can spiral into blood infections, meningitis, and hospital beds filled with IV drips. Pregnant women face the cruelest blow. What feels like mild food poisoning for them can silently cross the placenta, leading to miscarriage, stillbirth, or a newborn fighting for life in intensive care. Imagine the single mum in Detroit, microwaving peas to stretch dinner. Her child ends up doubled over in pain. The grandmother in Oklahoma stretching her pension, now stretching her stay in a hospital ward. The betrayal feels deeply personal. And the scary part is how everyday these exposures can be. A cancer patient reheats a portion just warm enough to swallow, enough to taste, not enough to kill bacteria. That's how listeria weaves itself into ordinary routines, turning convenience into catastrophe. The broader question lingers. If peas can be tainted today, what's next? Salmonella tomorrow, pesticides the month after. Once could be bad luck, twice a coincidence, but 3 times? That's a system failure. If they're caught today, what are they hiding tomorrow? Is it really fresh or only labeled safe? Refunds were issued, yes. But refunds don't erase the image of a grieving parent or the fear of every expectant mother staring at her freezer. Shouldn't every American demand better? The answer isn't fear-mongering, it's vigilance. Seek organic brands with audited oversight. Support local growers where trust is visible. Or freeze your own peas at home. So, clean truly means what you decide. Because when danger hides inside something as small as a pea, blind trust is no longer an option. 2. Frozen carrots. In September 2025, the FDA confirmed that frozen carrots packaged by Endico Potatoes Inc. were included in the same Class 1 recall as their peas, flagged for possible listeria contamination. A Class 1 recall is not a minor hiccup. It's the highest level of alarm, signaling the kind of contamination that could send ordinary Americans straight from their kitchens to hospital beds. Those bright orange sticks, symbols of health and eyesight, were suddenly branded as potential risks. Carrots have always carried a trustworthy reputation. Shredded in school lunches, steamed for babies, roasted beside Sunday roasts, they were the definition of safe and reliable nutrition. Washed, peeled, ready to cook. The label projects confidence, whispering, "We've done the work. You just enjoy." But behind the cheerful orange glow, scientists discovered a darker truth. Listeria doesn't just hide in leafy greens. It clings to hard surfaces too. The microscopic grooves on a carrot's cut edge can act like tiny caves, protecting bacteria through washing, freezing, and packaging. What looked like a harmless crunch had the potential to deliver an invisible threat. The system flaw is glaring. Once again, the problem wasn't caught inside Endico's safety net, but flagged by outside regulators. That's not a fluke, that's a pattern. Consumers trust companies to guard their food. But here it felt like trusting a padlock no one bothered to test. It's the same roulette table as with peas, but the spin now comes with a different colour, orange instead of green. And every serving of soup or stew became another round in a dangerous game. The human toll isn't abstract. It shows up at dinner tables across the country. Listeria infection in real life can mean days of fever, relentless diarrhea, and weakness that keeps workers home from shifts they can't afford to miss. For seniors, it may spiral into blood infections or meningitis. For pregnant women, the risk goes far deeper, crossing the placenta and threatening unborn lives. Imagine the warehouse worker in Ohio, heating leftover stew with frozen carrots after a late-night shift, ending up in the ER by dawn. Picture a grandmother in Texas, proudly serving healthy sides to her grandchildren, unknowingly serving them danger with a smile. These aren't just statistics. They're betrayals of trust woven into family meals. The broader concern is that carrots aren't a fringe product. They're staples. If a basic, affordable vegetable can slip through cracks this wide, what other everyday foods are walking the same tightrope? Today, it's listeria. Tomorrow, it could be salmonella, undeclared allergens, or pesticide residues. Once is misfortune, twice is negligence. But a cycle like this hints at systemic rot. If they're caught today, what corners will be cut tomorrow? Is the food in your freezer fresh or just frozen? Yes, refunds were announced. But refunds don't erase fear from the minds of families who thought carrots were safe as water. Shouldn't every American have the right to safer safeguards than apologies after the fact? The real solutions start with vigilance. Choose suppliers audited by third parties. Consider buying from local farmers where the chain of trust is visible, or process and freeze your own carrots at home. Because when even the most trustworthy vegetable turns suspect, blind faith becomes a gamble no family can afford. 3. Sweet corn. In August 2023, the FDA confirmed a Class 1 recall on frozen sweet corn produced by Twin City Foods, distributed under major supermarket labels like Kroger and Food Lion. The reason? Suspected listeria contamination. Listeria can bring fever, stomach pain, and for vulnerable groups, hospitalization. That is frightening enough. But here's the darker twist. Many families knew about the warnings and still put those yellow kernels into their shopping carts. Why? Because the system left them no real choice. Sweet corn is a staple in American kitchens. It shows up in lunchboxes, family barbecues, and casseroles that stretch meals across the week. Affordable, convenient, filling. It's the safety net food. But when that very net is riddled with holes, the question isn't just about bacteria. It's about how ordinary people are forced to gamble with their health, because the alternative, organic, fresh, or local, is simply out of reach. Picture the single mother in West Virginia at the checkout line. She knows she read something online about corn recalls, but her budget doesn't stretch to the organic aisle. She tells herself, one bag won't hurt. Just this once. Or the retired couple in Arizona, living off a pension, staring at prices that doubled in the produce section. They whisper, "Frozen is cheaper, it lasts longer." What choice do we have? They know the risks. They buy it anyway. This is not ignorance, it's resignation. That resignation is the silent wound of the food system. It trains people to normalize risk, to tisk-tisk at headlines and then shrug. It won't happen to me. It's not recklessness. It's survival math. If every paycheck is stretched thin and corn at 99 cents keeps kids fed, the hidden bacteria feels like a ghost problem compared to rent, gas, or school supplies. The system counts on this psychology, on people soothing themselves with false comfort. If I haven't gotten sick yet, maybe I won't. And so contaminated bags keep selling, not because people trust them, but because they're trapped. This is what makes the sweet corn recall more haunting than most. It's not just a corporate slip-up, it's a mirror of inequality. The wealthier can sidestep risk with organic deliveries and farmers' markets. The rest, they are left playing Russian roulette, told to be grateful the freezer section still has affordable options. And when sickness strikes, it's the weakest who pay. The grandmother skipping her heart meds to buy groceries, the child whose immune system isn't strong, the low-wage worker who can't afford a day off, let alone a hospital bill. Refunds were issued, yes. But refunds don't change the fact that the poorest Americans are forced to carry the heaviest burden. Shouldn't every American, regardless of income, deserve food that doesn't come with hidden dice rolls? The solution isn't to shame families for buying cheap. It's to demand stronger oversight, transparent testing, and food systems that don't punish poverty with illness. Until then, every golden kernel is a reminder. The system doesn't protect everyone equally, and blind faith in the freezer aisle is a privilege the vulnerable can't afford. 4. Spinach. Back in 2021 and again in 2023, the FDA and CDC confirmed multiple recalls of bagged spinach, first for E. coli outbreaks, then for suspected listeria contamination. Some cases led to hospitalizations, some to lawsuits. A vegetable once marketed as Popeye's symbol of strength had in real life become a symbol of fragility. That green leaf promising iron and vitality was suddenly stamped with warning labels, its history marred by scandal after scandal. Spinach has always been the poster child of healthy eating. Supermarkets stack bags with bold labels, washed 3 times, ready to eat. Those phrases are supposed to erase doubt, to soothe tired parents trying to balance work, health, and convenience. But beneath the glossy marketing lies an uncomfortable truth. Leafy greens are delicate sponges. Every fold, every crease in a spinach leaf can shelter bacteria. That water, chlorine rinses, and even freezing fail to remove. One moment, it's a salad topping. The next, it's a biological trap. And here's the haunting part. These failures weren't discovered by the brands themselves, but through outbreaks and outside investigations. Each scandal followed the same tired pattern, celebrated as America's healthiest leaf one season, dragged into headlines the next. It's the food safety equivalent of watching the same movie on repeat, only the ending keeps hurting real families. For consumers, it feels like trusting a safety net full of holes, spun not from care but from excuses. The people most hurt are rarely those with luxury choices. It's seniors relying on spinach for cheap nutrition, patients told to eat more greens to recover strength, low-income families believing a $2 bag is the fastest way to bring health to the table. For them, every forkful isn't just food, it's faith. And when that faith is betrayed, it isn't just physical illness. It's the crushing weight of being reminded that even healthy choices can be poisoned by the system. Now, let's talk about tomorrow. If spinach was flagged for E. coli in 2021, for listeria in 2023, what comes next in 2026? Pesticide residues, heavy metals leaching from irrigation systems, undeclared allergens. The pattern is too consistent to dismiss as coincidence. Some companies say they've upgraded their washing stations, added more audits, but can a rinse really fix a system that repeatedly fails? Or is this the calm before an even bigger scandal? One that doesn't just recall products, but shakes consumer trust to its core. Here's the emotional twist. Spinach isn't just food, it's identity. It's the mother who thinks she's doing right by packing greens into lunch boxes. The father who blends smoothies before a morning jog. If even those efforts are tainted, what hope is left for families trying to do better? Refunds don't rebuild that trust. Refunds don't erase the picture of a child lying in a hospital bed after eating a healthy salad. So, we must ask, if history repeats itself this often, should we believe the next recall is already written, just waiting for a date? Or will the industry finally deliver on promises of safety? And here's where I turn to you. What do you see in spinach's future? Another headline, another excuse, or real change? Share your predictions, because this conversation isn't just about vegetables. It's about whether the food system itself can ever earn back the trust it keeps throwing away. 5. Riced cauliflower. In April 2024, a batch of frozen riced cauliflower was pulled from shelves in Texas after FDA inspectors detected listeria contamination. For many Americans, this wasn't just cauliflower. It was the golden child of modern dieting, the low-carb miracle that promised to replace rice without guilt. And suddenly, the miracle turned into a minefield. What does it say about our food system when even the poster child of healthy innovation gets dragged into the same mess as the cheapest freezer peas? If the trendiest health hack on TikTok can't escape contamination, what can? Riced cauliflower was marketed like a gym membership in a bag. Convenience, nutrition, modern living, all chopped and ready to saute. The packaging screamed fresh start, whispering to carb counters everywhere, "You can have your stir fry and eat it too." But once the recall hit, that whisper turned sinister. Those little white grains, meant to symbolize discipline and progress, looked more like Trojan horses, carrying bacteria into kitchens that thought they were safe. Isn't it bitterly ironic that the vegetable sold as an upgrade for wellness ended up downgraded by a bacteria no one can see? The failure here slices deeper than marketing spin. It wasn't consumers asking too much, it was companies delivering too little. Inspections didn't catch the contamination in-house, outside checks did. Again. How many times does that pattern need repeating before we admit the lock on the door is just for decoration? Americans were told, "Trust the label." But every headline reads like déjà vu. How many times can you watch Lucy snatch away the football before you stop believing you'll ever get to kick it? The human side of this story feels heavier. Families embracing riced cauliflower weren't reckless, they were trying. The diabetic man in Dallas who thought he'd found a safe swap for white rice. The grandmother in Michigan told by her doctor to cut carbs, proudly serving cauliflower stir-fry to her grandkids. These weren't fads, they were lifelines. And then the recall shattered that fragile trust, leaving people not just sick, but humiliated, punished for doing exactly what they were told was healthy. Isn't that the cruelest twist of all? That you can play by the rules and still lose. And what happens next if the pattern doesn't break? Today it's listeria. Tomorrow, maybe pesticides that slip past audits, or microplastics seeping from packaging, or allergens mislabeled in keto-friendly products. If the miracle food of 2024 is compromised, what miracle of 2026 will stumble next? Should we believe corporate promises? Or are we just waiting for the next scandal to arrive, like the sequel to a bad movie no one asked for? At what point do Americans stop laughing it off and start asking the real question? Is health food even healthy if the system behind it is broken? It's almost darkly comic. Riced cauliflower was supposed to make us feel lighter, yet it weighs heavy on trust. But here's the thing. Resignation isn't the only option. Just as folks swap jokes about gas station sushi being a gamble, maybe it's time to rethink how we define safe. Buy from local farmers you can actually talk to. Pick brands that publish their audits, not just slogans. Or heck, take a Sunday afternoon to grate and freeze your own cauliflower. It may not be glamorous, but neither is food poisoning. The real inside joke is this. The only six-pack worth bragging about is not the abs, but the peace of mind that your dinner won't put you in the ER6, broccoli. They told us broccoli was the safest bet in the produce aisle, the badge of virtue on every American plate. Doctors preached it, schools forced it, parents bargained with it at dinner tables. And yet, in July 2022, the FDA issued a sweeping recall of frozen broccoli cuts from multiple suppliers after testing revealed listeria contamination. The irony hit harder than a bitter stalk. The vegetable we mocked as boring turned out to be dangerous, a wolf dressed in green florets. Broccoli carries cultural baggage in America. Comedians joke about kids pushing it around their plates. Presidents have even campaigned on disliking it. Yet, behind the punchlines, broccoli was supposed to be the safest, cleanest, most dependable vegetable. Washed, bagged, frozen, it projected reliability. But bacteria found cracks in the system, clinging to the branching florets like squatters in an abandoned house. And just like that, the health halo snapped, revealing a ticking time bomb hidden in your freezer. The failure was systemic, not accidental. Outside labs sounded the alarm. The companies themselves missed it. Again, the supposed fortress of food safety was guarded by cardboard walls. Isn't it unsettling how every recall seems to play like a rerun? Spinach, peas, carrots, now broccoli. Different colours, same script. And still, we're asked to trust the label. At what point does ready to cook translate to ready to betray? For ordinary Americans, broccoli wasn't just another vegetable, it was duty. The diabetic father steaming it to avoid carbs. The young couple stocking freezer bags to stretch meals across inflation. The grandmother in Kansas putting florets on her plate every night because her doctor told her it would keep her strong. And then came the recalls, shattering not just their meals, but their sense of safety. Picture that grandmother, still boiling the recalled broccoli because she can't bring herself to throw food away. "It's wasteful," she whispers, spooning danger into her bowl. That's the quiet tragedy. People knowingly eating what might harm them, because the system made waste feel worse than risk. Now comes the haunting question. What if this isn't the end, but the middle act of a larger story? If broccoli, the crown jewel of healthy eating, is compromised today, what's waiting tomorrow? Could cauliflower return to the stage, this time with pesticide residues instead of bacteria? Could Brussels sprouts carry heavy metals from overworked soils? If the greenest of greens can't be trusted, then what remains untouched? Or are we spiraling toward a future where every superfood headline hides a scandal in waiting? Here's the twist. Broccoli is more than food. It's a cultural icon, the butt of jokes, the emblem of do the right thing. And when even that icon falls, the betrayal feels personal, almost a mocking. Refunds. They don't erase the image of America's dinner tables turned into minefields. They don't silence the question echoing in every parent's mind. If I can't trust broccoli, what on earth can I trust? So maybe the ending isn't tidy at all. Maybe the frozen aisle is less a marketplace than a casino, where every bag is a bet and every floret is a loaded dice. And if that's the case, Americans deserve to ask, not meekly but fiercely, why the house always seems to win while the people lose. Until then, every green crown in the freezer isn't reassurance, it's a dare. 7. Green beans. Imagine the sound, the snap of a fresh green bean, crisp and clean, the very picture of summer health. Now replace that with the silence of a freezer aisle in 2021, when the FDA ordered a Class 1 recall of frozen green beans produced by Twin City Foods after detecting listeria contamination. That snap of life had turned into a crack of betrayal. Green beans, the vegetable parents begged their kids to finish, suddenly carried the weight of a biohazard. Green beans were supposed to be the compromised vegetable, not too bitter, not too bland, a simple staple you could toss into casseroles or steam in minutes. Bags labelled, cut, washed, ready for the pot, lined shelves like green soldiers of convenience. but hidden inside those ranks was an invisible invader. Listeria doesn't care that beans are symbols of balance. It clings to the pods, hides in seams, survives freezing, and waits. Isn't it maddening that the very vegetable advertised as no fuss could carry risks far more complicated than anyone bargained for? The scandal revealed yet another hole in the fortress of trust. Again, it wasn't caught internally. It took outside checks to expose it. A fortress that can't guard its own gates isn't a fortress at all. It's theater. And Americans are the audience, paying admission with every grocery bill, only to discover the play is a tragedy in disguise. Haven't we seen this act too many times before? Different vegetable, same plot twist? For the families most affected, the betrayal cut deeper than headlines. Picture a mother in Ohio tossing green beans into a pot because her children actually like them. A small victory at dinner. Picture a worker in Georgia relying on freezer vegetables to save time after a 12-hour shift. They weren't careless. They were doing exactly what they were told. Feed your family vegetables, keep meals affordable, stretch the dollar. And then came the recall notice. That mother's relief turned to dread. That worker's shortcut became a trap. Isn't it cruel that doing the right thing can still lead to punishment? And the questions grow heavier. What happens when the next round of beans is bagged, sealed, shipped, and sold? Will the testing really catch the danger in time, or are Americans still just rolling dice with their dinners? If peas, carrots, spinach, broccoli, and now green beans have stumbled, what vegetable is left to trust? Are we watching a slow-motion collapse of the very idea that frozen vegetables are safe? Or are these just early tremors before a larger quake? One that might shake the freezer aisle to rubble. The future feels like a gamble. Maybe regulators tighten oversight. Maybe companies invest in better audits. Or maybe, in a year, we're back here again, with another green headline and another round of apologies. And what then? Do families stop buying vegetables altogether? Or do they grit their teeth, whisper, "We'll be fine," and keep serving danger with a smile? The haunting image remains. Every green bean lined up in your freezer bag looks harmless, like children waiting in line at recess. But what if one of them carries a hidden knife? That's not paranoia. That's the question every parent deserves to ask before they trust the snap of green beans ever again. 8. Bell peppers. The numbers tell a story more chilling than any metaphor. In December 2023, the FDA flagged and recalled multiple brands of frozen diced bell peppers after tests confirmed the presence of Listeria monocytogenes. According to the CDC, Listeria causes an estimated 1,600 infections and 260 deaths every year in the United States. Those aren't abstract figures. Their lives erased, hospital beds filled, and families fractured. What makes bell peppers particularly alarming is how common they are in American households. Nielsen retail data shows that over 60% of US families purchase frozen peppers at least once a year, often as a budget-friendly substitute for fresh produce. That means when contamination strikes, exposure is widespread and deeply personal. Unlike niche health foods, peppers land in tacos, stir-fries, omelets, and school lunches. They are woven into everyday life, which magnifies the scale of risk. When the 2023 recall was announced, the peppers had already been distributed to more than 30 states, covering major supermarket chains. The FDA classified it as a Class 1 recall, the most serious level, defined as a product with reasonable probability of causing serious health consequences or death. That phrase alone should send a shiver through every freezer aisle. If even the rainbow-colored pepper, a symbol of health and vitality, is flagged under Class 1, what does that mean for consumer trust in the frozen section as a whole? The health risks aren't hypothetical. CDC surveillance reports show that pregnant women are 10 times more likely to contract listeriosis, and in the past decade, 20% of listeria cases involve newborn infants infected before birth. When peppers are recalled, it isn't just inconvenience, it's neonatal units on alert. It's immunocompromised patients facing life-threatening infections. It's seniors whose mortality rate skyrockets once hospitalized. Numbers like these give weight to the fear. The problem isn't only food safety, it's systemic. Vulnerability, and the system keeps repeating itself. Between 2018 and 2023, the FDA tracked over 50 frozen vegetable recalls, the majority linked to listeria. Bell peppers aren't alone. They're simply the latest chapter in a pattern. If half a decade of recalls hasn't broken the cycle, what confidence should families have that the next batch is truly safe? Are these recalls evidence of stronger oversight, or proof of a system permanently playing catch-up? The economic footprint is staggering too. A 2022 USDA analysis estimated that foodborne listeria outbreaks cost the US economy nearly $3 billion annually, factoring in medical bills, productivity loss, and premature deaths. Every recall, including peppers, adds to that tab. Consumers don't just pay at checkout, they pay through insurance premiums, tax-funded investigations, and the hidden costs of mistrust that echo across the food supply chain. So the next time you see a frozen bag of bell peppers, the numbers demand a pause. 1,600 infections, 260 deaths, 50 recalls, billions in costs. Behind every statistic is a person who thought they were feeding their family something safe. Isn't it time to ask, how many more data points will it take before we see real change? In the end, these frozen vegetables aren't just groceries, they're warnings written in ice. Every recall whispers that trust is fragile, every statistic shows the price of silence. If this shook you, don't walk away. Subscribe, join the conversation, and demand the answers every American family deserves.